So welcome everyone to our session on streamlining tasks and project tracking using Microsoft SharePoint. So we'll talk a little bit about Teams, we'll talk mainly about SharePoint, but what exactly is SharePoint? So when we refer to this Microsoft 365 application, SharePoint really is a centralized workspace. What does that mean for us? Well, that basically means that we can have one central place to go to manage what it is that we need to have access to, whether it's documents, it's lists, it's calendar information, it's upcoming events, whatever the case might be. SharePoint can be that central location. Makes it super easy for controlling permissions to have a SharePoint site. And everybody with those permissions has access to all the content that goes within a SharePoint site, where we can have shared planners like Microsoft planners. Those can be shared task lists that we are using with our group. It really helps to improve collaboration with your coworkers or with the people that you are working on tasks or working on a project with. And it really is integrated with all of your other Microsoft apps. And you're going to see that, of course, here today as we talk about some of the benefits. So what I'm going to be starting with showing you today is a template that Microsoft provides for free for a new SharePoint site. So if you or whoever in your organization goes to create a new SharePoint site that you want to use for tracking a project, there is a template you can start with that's going to include elements that you wouldn't have to add manually. It would be set up with some of the beneficial tools that are included in SharePoint. I'll show you how you can use this template if you were to create the SharePoint site, but I'll show you what it looks like in the end. Because I know a lot of organizations don't allow everyone to be able to create SharePoint sites, and that's okay. Once you know what it includes, you could request whoever in your company creates them, you could request them to use that template. So the template is going to come with pre-configured layouts. So SharePoint is kind of set up with when we design them. They're set up in sections, and each section has what are referred to as web parts. We'll see that. We're going to see that it's automatically going to come with tracking capabilities. It's going to come with document management. It's going to come with the capability of being connected with Microsoft Teams as well. So I'll show you how that all works. I wanted to share with you a few example projects and what you can be using SharePoint for. So let's say that you're doing an office relocation project. Use case is coordinating logistics, vendors, communications for moving to the new office. You could have a task list that is going to include different things like lease negotiation, IT setup, furniture delivery, or even furniture inventory that you're ordering. It can include employee communication. You could have a document library that includes all of the files that you need to share with everybody. You could have a calendar that's going to have the move out, move in dates, vendor appointments, things like that. You could have quick links to be able to easily have everyone be able to access certain information, like a facilities request form, IT support, the new office map. So a SharePoint site can be that central location to have access to anything related to that relocation of an office. Another example would be a software development sprint, where we want to track agile sprints, bugs, features based on development. It can have the library, the integration with Power Automate. It can have all kinds of different things. But a very common one is employee onboarding. Employee onboarding, we want to have a central standardized way to track the onboarding of our new hires for our organization, where we could have the task list, the document library, the calendar, the quick links. So you're kind of seeing a pattern as you see these different examples of projects that we could actually use SharePoint for. or policy review and compliance audits. You could use that to help manage your documents and have an easy way to be able to send files for approval. That could include Power Automate features as well. Academic research collaboration is another type of a project that you could use that can use those same web parts that we were talking about that have task lists, document libraries, calendars, and quick links as well. So what does something like this actually look like? So first off, let me show you how it could get created. There's more than just the project management template. I happen to just be in my SharePoint admin, not the only way to create a SharePoint site. But if I go to create, it first wants to know, are you going to be creating a team site or a communication site? If you're going to be, so the difference between these two, if you want to be able to have good collaboration tools with direct connection to Microsoft Teams with the SharePoint site, you would be leaning towards a team site. If you just need a SharePoint site to give information to your employees, you can do a communication site. In this case, to manage a project and task lists and things, you'd probably want a team site. So I'm going to go ahead and click team site. It's then going to bring up a list of different templates that Microsoft provides for free. So crisis communication team, employee onboarding team, event planning, IT help desk, project management, retail management, all kinds of templates that can come for free. So if I choose project management, first, on the left-hand side, it gives you site capabilities, tells you what's included. If you just want to see a preview, you could click Preview Site. On the right-hand side, it's actually giving you a preview of what the site would look like. I won't really create one because I already have one created that I didn't add too much to. I didn't change it much. But if you wanted to use it, all you do is at the bottom right, click Use Template. Then you have to give the SharePoint site a name, those kind of things. You could add people. I don't ever add people as soon as I create it, because just because I created it doesn't mean it's ready to share with other people. So you want to have it set up and have useful information available in the site before you physically invite people. So what exactly is it going to look like? Well, this is a project management test site, SharePoint site that I created. You could see the name of it at the top left. Now, of course, those types of things can be modified, but it did create a group. I currently am the only person that has access to this. Once I build it, I would invite members, how you normally would do. But what comes by default? What are we getting by default with this template that is going to be able to help us manage a project and work with tasks? Well, it's giving us what is called a hero, 2 images at the top. One is the progress tracker list. The second one is an issue tracker list. Both of those are shortcuts, that hyperlinks that we can click on to automatically take us to those lists. And by the way, they are Microsoft lists. I definitely will show you these and show you how you can take advantage of using these. But what else is included by default? On the right-hand side, there's a countdown. So let's say that you have a date that your project's going to go live or whatever the case might be. There's a web part in SharePoint that you can use that's going to give you a countdown. So everybody knows how many more days to the end of the project, or how many days to reach a milestone, or whatever your case would be when you're managing that project. I also have project milestones on the right-hand side. You can see where it's showing us where we could be putting in what is the name of the milestone, what is the date. We can have different links. Down on the right-hand side, we can have different links. We could have project contacts. So you could have contact links. So if somebody needs to get a hold of the project manager, the key stakeholders, the vendor, whatever, we could have a list of a quick link to get into communicating with those people. But then also kind of back in the middle of the window, underneath the two links at the top, on the left-hand side, I have quick, easy access to the document library that was automatically created for this site based on the template. And then there's also a column of activities. So these are recent activities that have happened based on the content in this site. And it happens to be document libraries, but files coming from the document library. And then if I scroll down in the middle of the window, we could be posting news. So it could be the latest news related to the project. It could be news articles or whatever the case might be, because you might have to have if you're going to be doing a new development in a neighborhood and you're going to be cutting down trees and whatever, you might have to have a public open meeting, and that could be part of the news. Whatever it is that you need to share that everybody related to this team, this is where we could have that information very easily available. So these are things you get by default. All we have to do is kind of fill it in with our details and make changes if we need to. You can change the images it's using, all kinds of things could be modified. But I like it straight out of the box, so to say. But if you look at the navigation on the left-hand side, you're going to see there's shortcuts to several different things. There's a shortcut to a OneNote notebook, which would be great to be able to have a physical notebook where everybody can collaborate together based on the project. We also have access to a calendar. I'll kind of click on those here in just a few minutes, but just to give you a general idea of what you get first. We also have the link to the project tracker list, which is the same as this progress tracker list. There's also an issue tracker list. There's the document library. And of course, every SharePoint site has its own recycle bin. Now, before I go into any of these to kind of show you what you get by default and what you can do with them, notice at the bottom left, it says add real-time chat. Add Microsoft Teams to collaborate in real time and share resources across Microsoft 365 with your team. If I click that link at the bottom where it says add Microsoft Teams, that will automatically, and you can see on the right-hand side it says bring resources in. I'm going to go ahead and use the wizard and say continue. And then it wants to know, do I want to add pages, list, or document libraries as tabs in the team to have them available? So it's showing me recommendations, but I could go to pages and I could say, I want these pages of my SharePoint site to be added. I want these lists to be added. I want these document libraries to be added. So we can really choose what we want to add to be available in the team it's going to create. So I'm going to click Add Teams after I select a few of the components of the SharePoint site. I can always go back and add them later, because if I make changes to the SharePoint site, I want them to be available in Microsoft Teams as well. So if I go to Microsoft Teams, so here I'm now in Microsoft Teams. I have this new team that was added called PM Test Site, just like the SharePoint site. If I go to the general channel, which of course you can rename that general channel to be whatever you want to name it, and you could add other channels that can be helpful for you to manage your project and manage your task list. But based on what I selected when I told it to create this team to be connected to the SharePoint, you can see at the top, it's got a post tab where, of course, we can be posting information that we want to share with the team. It's got a files tab, and the files tab can be the same as the document library in the SharePoint site, which it's really slow on connecting to it right at this second. I'll come back to it in a minute, but it will have my issue tracker, my project tracker, and a notebook, the shared notebook. So those components, I don't have to go to SharePoint to use them. I could go to Teams and use it. It's the same site no matter if I'm accessing it through Teams or I'm accessing it through SharePoint. It's really a end user preference, whatever you want to be using. So one of the components that was created with that template is called Issue Tracker. So if you think of kind of working on a project with some coworkers, vendors, whatever the case might be, you run across some issues sometimes with the project. This is a Microsoft list that was pre-built. It's actually a template, a Microsoft list template that we have available to us automatically. We didn't have to create it. Now, how do you use it? Well, you can see that it's got these columns going across, but if you want to add an issue to the list, we click Add New Item. So at the menu at the top of this, then you can come in and type in what your issue is, giving it a description, giving it a priority, giving it a status. It's got all these fields of information that we can track about the issue. So I'm going to go to where it says enter value here. Let me see. I think I didn't double check this first, but I think it's looking for an issue ID. A lot of times, by the way, when we're tracking issues, we want to give it a number. So I'm just going to say 011. I'm going to click in the issue description, and on the right-hand side, I'm going to click the pencil because I want to type in a description. So this is what the issue is, and all the details. So I would put in all the details of what the issue is, those kind of things. I'll save that description. I can always come back and change it. I can put in what the priority is. It's got built-in drop-down list. I have a drop-down list for status, so I can say, is it a duplicate? Has it been blocked? Is it in progress? By design, we can change these, by the way. These are drop-down menus within a list that we can create our own columns and create another field available with other choices or other text options, etc. But I'm going to keep it as new. The status is new because it is a new issue. We haven't started working on it. Who is this assigned to? So I can assign this issue to the person that actually needs to fix the issue. So I'm going to assign it to myself. Now, of course, once I have members added to the SharePoint site, they have access to this team as well by default. So when you add people to be a part of the SharePoint site, they're automatically added to the team as well when you create that team. And you can only assign to the people that are a part of the SharePoint site, the people that have the permissions. So anyway, I could put a link in if there's a related issue to this. If I had attachments that kind of have screenshots, whatever the case might be, when you're done, you just click save. And now that issue has been added to this list so that we have a way to be able to track this. We know then all the issues that are going on with our project. So great tool that is automatically included. But what if I'm back in SharePoint? What's going on with that list? If I'm back in the actual SharePoint site, can I work on that list here too? Absolutely. It is live collaboration because it is the same list. I can have anybody working on it through Teams or anybody working on it through SharePoint, and we can be working at the same time. That's the benefit of being in the cloud situation with being in SharePoint. So if I go either to the link at the top of the SharePoint homepage, or I go to the left-hand side and click on Issue Tracker List, it's going to show us the same list as I was just in, and that entry that I had made will already be here. So if I need to add a new item, you can see the menu going across the top where I could simply click Add New Item. I can come in and put in all the details like I showed before. I could have the next ID number. I can put in a description of what the issue is. There were changes that are not lining up, whatever the case might be. I click Save. I could do the priority, status. who is this going to be assigned to, which I don't have to always do that right away because sometimes I don't know. If it's just getting entered, I may not know who. But what about, is there, do I need a column? Okay, this is a column of who it's assigned to, but do I need to add another column to track other details? The benefit of using a list is, and by the way, there's information in your handout on this, how to access lists, because lists is their own application, which I'll show you in a second. But they can be used through Microsoft Teams and or SharePoint very easily as well. But in your handout, you're going to find on page 6, 5 and 6 is where it starts the information about using lists. I have some examples of lists in there, project management information, but how is a list and Excel similar or different from each other? We'll both use columns and rows, except for lists are very customizable. So if I go to add a column, it's not like giving a heading to a column in Excel. How it works here is I go to add column and it gives me a list of data types that we can use for that column. So I could add a new column that is text related. I could have a multi-choice. I could have a date and time, which, by the way, I might need a date and time. I could do multi-line, person, a number, a yes, no, hyperlink, currency, image, location, a lookup, blah, blah, blah. All these different options. I'm going to say date, and I'm going to click next. So it's going to be automatically formatted as a date. At the top, I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to say date issue discovered, something like that. Oops. Date issue discovered. I could put in a description, I could change the data type, etc. When I'm done, I click Save. And we will now have a new column that is formatted for that date called Date Issue. So if I want to go back and modify an existing, or when I create a new one, I would now be able to access the date. So I just double clicked on this one and I can come in and make changes to it. So I could go to that new field called Date Issue Discovered, and I could choose the date that I want to have available for this and close it. So I could always go back and add information or modify the existing list. But this list works similar to a database. So when we talk about the benefit of a list, we can have custom views, we can use templates, we have different workflows that we can use with a list. It's great for being able to collaborate in columns and rows and have our columns be pre-formatted based on the data type. Can we do some of those kind of things in Excel? Yes, but it doesn't give us the same capabilities that we have in a list. So lists are great options to use. It has different built-in options at the top because this is a template that automatically came with the project management template. So up at the top, I have these different views where right now I'm on all, but if I wanted to just see issues that were created by me, my active issues, status of issues, I can have these custom views that I either create myself or use the ones that are built in, and it's going to filter the list to show you based on the views that were created. So it's a really powerful tool for us to be able to use these lists to help us manage our project. But there's another list that was included as well. With this template on the left-hand side, I'm going to go to the project tracker list. The project tracker list. This would be another option that you could have available to work with your team. So it says you're almost there, set up features, due date reminders. I'm going to click next. And it's checking connections to make sure that it is automatically connected to any external apps that it needs to be connected to use email notifications. Because we can have built-in workflows that say, I want to be given a reminder when something is due. So it needs to connect to SharePoint. It needs to connect to Outlook. I'm going to click next on this nice little wizard we get and close it. So it's telling me everything is set up and ready to go. So what exactly is this? Well, this is a way that we can keep track of tasks. So it's got the work item, it's got description, it's got a category, a progress, priority, start date, due date, assigned to notes, key stakeholder, and we can add additional columns. So just so you can see an example, up at the top, if I add new item, it's updating my project tracker list right now, but if I go to this add new item, it gives you the window with all those fields so that you can be adding things in. So if I have task 1, I would give it more of a name, but if I come in and put in a description of what that task is, roll out the rugs, blah, blah, blah. I could put it into a category of what it's related to. By the way, you can, of course, edit these categories. Is it part of the designing? Is it part of the engineering? Is it in progress? I can put in priorities. I can put in when this needs to start, when it's due by, which is fantastic that we could do all of that. We can put in who is this assigned to, which, by the way, anytime that you're putting in a name, they get notified via email that they were assigned to that. I could add any notes, I could put in key stakeholders, that kind of thing, attachments. Once I'm done, I click save. So we can have reminders based on when that needs to start and that's due and or due. We can get reminders emailed to us. Notice the ribbon going across the top of a list. It has more than just add new items. You can also choose grid view. Right now I'm in grid view. I can exit the grid view just so you can see it's a normal list, or I can edit columns of details by being in grid view. So if I wanted to assign this to somebody else, I want to change the due date, all of that, we can do that without opening the task itself. But also up at the top, you can see I could copy a link or share this list with other people that may not be a member. I could also export it to Excel. I could create a form based on this. I have automation processes. So we could be having Power Automate be a part of this as well. So we could set reminders, we could create rules, we have quick step options where we could be setting things up that say, if the status column changes, I want to get an email notification. So different things like that we can set up workflows for. So it's got great easy ways to be able to work with those. So it's a huge benefit to use a list so that we have that integration with these other applications and we can create automated workflows very easily. Also going across the top, we have integration with our Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. And if you go to the ... drop down, you can see that we could set up alerts. Alerts are available in lists and in document libraries. If I click Alert Mate, what this allows us to do is to say that if something changes, SharePoint alerts will be fully retired and alerts will stop working. I better check into that. That's the first I've seen that. But anyway, what are alerts? Because we can use those through Power Automate, is we can actually give it a name and then tell it we want to receive an email message when a change happens within this list. I could say, I want to be notified if any change happens, new items are added, existing items are modified, items are deleted. So if somebody deletes something, we can choose exactly what we want to be notified of. And down at the bottom, we can choose when do we want to get the notification. So I'm going to keep it with all the defaults. I'm going to click OK. So now this alert is actually created so that if anything happens within this Microsoft list, this progress tracking list, I'll get notified. So let's say that I come in and I make a change. So I'm going to edit the description, roll out the rugs for the new building. I'm going to get an email notification letting me know that that change happened, or if I add something new or whatever the case might be. Matthew, did we have any questions?
Yeah, someone is seeking some clarification. They're
Yes.
wondering, just to clarify, you can share the list to stakeholders that are external so they can view
Correct.
at any time they wish.
Correct.
Nice.
Yes.
Lovely.
So how that would happen is they don't have to be a member of the SharePoint site because they may not need access to everything else. If you go to the share, it's the same share that you would get if you were in a document library, that kind of thing. So first, go to the pencil at the top right. Do you want them to be able to edit the list? Do you want them just to be able to view the list? Put in their email address, put in the message, the email message to send along and click send. So just like you share anything else, then they can have access to this list, but nothing else in the team and nothing else in the SharePoint site.
Right. And
Okay.
yeah, and they won't get pinged when things are changing. They won't get any alerts or notifications.
No.
But if they feel like they need to check it, they can check it.
Absolutely.
Nice.
So just so I'm going to backtrack on the email notification that I was mentioning. Here's what's going to happen. So I updated the list. I'm getting these notifications because I had the workflows. Due date reminders ready to use. SharePoint Online was successfully set up. I can see the SharePoint, there was a change to that task, so it gave me my notification for that change that had happened. So just so you could see how you get those notifications. I love this. I got more notifications than you normally would receive, but if they share this list, the people sharing it never have a notification come from the list because they're not actively a part of the list because they can't make changes or anything. Okay.
Right.
But did you have another question, Matthew?
Yeah. Someone was wondering if it has to be a Microsoft email address to share externally, or can you share with like Gmail addresses and whatnot?
So you could share it to another type of account. But by default, whoever creates the alert through this automated process, whoever creates it, it's their work email address. But just so you know,
you could share that.
Correct. We can actually modify that. We could modify it to say I want it to go to my Gmail account.
Oh, the alert to go to your Gmail account.
Yep.
But if you had a Microsoft account, you could assign an alert or whatnot to a Gmail account or etc.
Correct. So we can use Power Automate to manage things as well. So let's say that we needed a vendor to get a notification. So if we make, a change that says return this item, and that item has got a vendor related to it, we could say if it says their name, it could automatically send them an email to an external email address and notify them that something happened or whatever. So we got a lot of power behind SharePoint, behind using these lists. We want to automate things as much as possible, which, by the way, at the end of the handout, we weren't going to cover it today, but I wanted to include some of it. So I gave you some kind of examples of some workflows built into your handout as well. Okay, a little extra thing at the end of the handout. But isn't this cool? I love these lists, but these were two lists that came directly with the template that I started with. Now, if you wanted to create your own list, you most certainly could, because all you have to do is go to the left-hand side, click Home to go to the main page of the SharePoint site again, the home page of the SharePoint site. And if you have the rights, because we can remove this if we don't want some people to do it. But if I go to the top left and click New, I could create a new agent, I could create a new list, I could create a list form, a new document library, a new page, a new post, a new plan. All kinds of things can be added in. Now, I'm not going to create another list. I'm going to actually create a plan because we want to have an actual planner available for this project. I'm going to click Plan. Matthew, did you have a question while I'm doing this?
Yeah, I thought I might ask this question right. Try to sneak it in before you move on from the list. Someone is wondering, can you disengage the share option to ensure people aren't sharing the document? So can you change the permissions so that people, if there's confidential information in that list, they can look at it, they can examine it, but they can't share the information.
Yes.
They can't share the documents.
100%. We have very strong permission levels built into SharePoint.
Nice.
So 100%, yes.
Totally feasible. Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I chose to create a new plan to have available for the project, and I want to use Microsoft Planner. Instead of using a Microsoft list, I could use Planner. You could use both, depending on what it is you're tracking. I personally do prefer Planner over a list for my tasks, but what do I use lists for in a project to manage a project? Here's changes that have happened to the project. The issue log. Those are things I use 100% of the time. I also can use it for my list of milestones. I can use a list also for my list of stakeholders and have contact information and all of that. So there's a lot of things I use lists for. I just don't prefer to do it for a task list. This program is built to be a task list. So I'm naming the plan. I'm going to click create. It's going to show it in the navigation on the left-hand side. This will be a central place for all of us that are a part of this SharePoint site to be able to have an actual shared Microsoft Planner task list. So I could come in and I could put in, here's the task name of, what needs to be done. And if our project were a new employee, new hire descriptions. And I can put in a due date of when this task is going to be due. I can assign it to members of the team. I click add task. This task is now added. But if I open that task, here's the window built specifically for tasks that we can organize our tasks into groups called buckets. So if everything is related to, this category, this category, this category, we use buckets to do that. We could put in what the progress is, what the priority is, when the task needs to start. I can change the due date, that kind of thing. We can put in notes. One of the things that I absolutely love is the checklist. So to complete this new hire descriptions, I need to look at old descriptions. I need to use Copilot to help build new descriptions. Whatever it is that you need to do to complete this task, you make this checklist. We can attach files. When you're done, you just close that window and everything is updated. And on this view called board view, I'm actually seeing here's the individual checklist items that I need to do to complete this. I can see it's got a reminder. I can see different information related to it. But once you start adding in your tasks, they get emailed, whoever you assign it to, they're going to be emailed that they were assigned to that task. But we have other views at the top that you can take advantage of here in Planner, like charts. So if you want to see a dashboard look of what's going on with the tasks within your plan, you can see charts. I could go to schedule and see a calendar view of the tasks that are being worked on throughout this project. So this can be a huge asset for helping you to manage what needs to be done and to be able to work together with your team members. So for me, I prefer to use a planner for the tasks. I want to use a list for my change log, my issue log, for a list of milestones, those kind of things, so that I can set up easy workflows and have columns and rows, and everybody has access to this. So great option to have. Lots of different ways that we can utilize this. And like I said, you could either be coming to SharePoint to access all of this, or you can access all of it directly from Teams as well. But another key aspect of this SharePoint site, a very big part of it besides the lists and Microsoft Planner, is the document libraries. 100% you will need to share files with your team members. On the left-hand side, by default, you will get one document library. You can, of course, have as many document libraries as you need to organize the information, or if you need a different document library for confidential information, you can have a different library created and only allow certain people access to it. But if I go to documents, now I did make a change to this and added a couple of documents in here already. Okay, so just so you could see, because I'm connected to Teams, it says in channels and in site library. But I have access to all of these same files in Teams and here in SharePoint. So how do we get new files in here? Well, you could go to new at the top, just like creating a new item in the list, and you could create a new folder to organize things. You could create a new Word, Excel file, etc. Or we could upload an existing one. So what if you have a file that somebody already created? You could upload files or folders from a different location and bring them into here. It makes a copy of them when you do that. So let's say that I have a milestone checklist that I need to bring in. And I have a costing template we're going to be using. And I have a statement of work I need for this project. I can select the files, click open, and it will bring those project management files into this document library. I'm getting a weird error. I'll just tell it to skip that. Let me see if I can get back to that here real quick for you. Let me refresh that. It was really being weird for a second. It's my computer doing something weird, not how this works. Okay. So anyway, you can bring files in either through here or back through Microsoft Teams. So even if I'm in Microsoft Teams, I have the ability of having access to the files. So if I go to the Files tab, Matthew, let me get your question here before I move forward with this.
Nice. Yeah. Someone is wondering, can a task in Planner being marked complete? Oh, sorry. I read the wrong question. My apologies. Okay. Is it possible to collapse the navigation panel on the left side of the SharePoint site, of a SharePoint site?
So they want to not see it?
Yeah, they're just wondering if they can close that navigation panel on the left.
So it can be not viewable, but how would you navigate to your items? You could have shortcuts on as a quick link, or have an image that we click on to get to something. So the answer is yes, we don't have to see the navigation pane, right. But it's always nice to have that for quick, easy ways to get to something. But in case they're wondering, you can't just temporarily hide it.
Oh.
It doesn't, shrink up or anything like that and then expand back out. It doesn't do that in SharePoint.
Okay. I think that's what they were wondering. So yeah.
Unfortunately,
if you want that convenience, you kind of have to have it there the whole time. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I do have quite a few more questions, but I think I'll hold them for the end of the session. Okay. So just a heads up.
I'm almost done, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to those here in just a second.
We're getting to those. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Cool. I like this. That's great.
Yeah.
So anyway, just so you could see, what I'm seeing here by default is I'm on the general channel of that team in Microsoft Teams. If I wanted to add a new file, upload an existing file, I can do that just like in SharePoint. But notice that the files weren't directly here that I was using in SharePoint. Now I could add it. I could add the SharePoint document library to be available as a tab going across the top. But let's just say that I want to add in a file. So if I go to my documents, well, actually, let me go to Microsoft Project Management stuff. I'm going to go to handouts. And let's say I want to add in this file. We can add a file here in Teams in that general channel or other channels, and we can have access to those in the document libraries back in the SharePoint site. So it's being weird here, just so you know, it's my computer doing something weird, but it will add it to it. Then when I go back into SharePoint, let me refresh that window again. Sorry. When I refresh that window again, how do I get to those? Well, there's a folder here called General. So every new channel in Teams that gets created, there's going to be a name of a folder for that channel. So we can always access the files from different channels directly in SharePoint and vice versa. I can access my SharePoint document library files back in Teams or even through, of course, File Explorer. So we have a lot of that connectivity back and forth. Now, this isn't refreshing very quickly, but that's okay for right now. I'll kind of ignore that. My computer's doing something weird. But you definitely have those advantages being in a document library for managing the files related to the project you're working on. You could do live collaboration with everybody that's an owner, member, or a guest of the SharePoint site or the team site. Also, if you go to a file and right-click, you've got a full menu of different things you can be doing with those files. You can delete it, save it to your favorites. You'll have access to version history. We have automation features that we can be using. We have different flows. We have different rules we could set up. One of my favorites is request sign-off. So if we have a document, like a change request came in, somebody added a change request and we need to get approval for that change for the project, we can use this built-in automated workflow called request sign-off, send the file to whoever needs to approve it, etc. But I got to tell you, Alert Me is great as well. We have Alert Me options here for this document library, just like the list. So you get the benefit of having all of these different tools available in this SharePoint site to be able to really collaborate with your team members that are working on this project together. You could store all your files, you could have a shared notebook, you can even have other shared items, not just lists, document libraries, but we can have notebooks. We could add other apps to be available, whether it's through Teams or it's directly here in the SharePoint site. And the home tab of the SharePoint site can look like a web page where people can have, this countdown to how many days left till the project. We could have a countdown, like I said, to a milestone and all of that. There's so many things that a SharePoint site can have to help you manage that. Now, like I said, all of that I've just mentioned is in your handout. So talking about that, using that template to build the SharePoint site, making it super easy to have those lists automatically and all of those, the connectivity to creating the team right away. Talks about using Microsoft Lists, all the great features about Microsoft Lists. We also have information in the handout about Microsoft Planner, and there's information about the SharePoint document libraries. So lots of detail in your handout that you're going to be able to use so that when you go back to work and you start thinking about how you're going to take advantage of these features, you have that. But like I mentioned, there is workflow options included on starting on page 17 of your handout as well. So a few common automation scenarios like setting up due dates, assigning task notifications, status of dashboards, approval workflows, all kinds of different things can be used through lists, document libraries, and even through Microsoft Planner.